You know what? We've been having heaps of fun up at Kids. We've actually been piggybacking on the back of what YA have been doing, the young adults. And they've been doing, I've just had a complete mind blank there. What have they been doing? Last term, I was actually looking for one of them. They're actually not here. Oh, sorry, Liv. I'm so sorry. What have you been doing? Oh, come on, jeepers. I've set you up there. Thank you. I'll set you up there and you dropped a ball on me, practicing the way. And so what it is actually learning about discipleship and the way that we apprentice under Jesus. Now, that idea of apprenticeship, I want to explore that today in a different way. And that's why I've got the kids that are going to help me out here. So when we think about apprenticeship, what are the first, and this is not going to be a lecture. Okay, this is going to be a tutorial. So we're going to have some involvement, all right? So thank you, good start. Okay, can we get that a little bit bigger? All right, a little bit more return, that would be good. So I'm going to ask some questions of the audience. So if I pick you and I don't know your name, that's my bad. I'm just a little bit unwell, but I'm getting healed. Where was I going with that? Oh yeah, apprenticeship. So what are some of the words when you think about apprenticeship or a traineeship that come to mind? Okay, electrician, good. Okay, so we've got some trades. What's some of the other things? Okay, so we can follow someone. We need a master that we need to follow. Okay, we've got the guy, that, fourth year apprentice or a third year or second year. They're going to follow the boss. What else do we got? Mentor, beautiful. What was that one? Learners, we're learning. And so you could argue that the disciples over their 3-year journey with Jesus were really just apprentices. Is that fair? Is that, okay, so they had a 3-year apprenticeship. Now, let's be honest, they stuffed up plenty of times on the way. Most learners do. And I want to say that that's okay because as disciples or as apprentices, we've actually got to learn and be looking to find the right answer through our master. If you aren't looking at the right master and you're looking at the second year going, is that how we do it? He's sitting there going, I don't know. Maybe we've got to actually go to the boss and say, how do we do this, Jesus? And so my encouragement today and my encouragement is whatever we're doing, we go back to Jesus, we go back to the master and say, how do we do this? If we're looking outside of that scope, then we're not actually apprenticing under Jesus. So today, the last few weeks that we've been talking about generosity, and I love that today we do talk about generosity. Excuse me, as I duck down. And I just want to PS this. I have nothing to qualify myself to talk about this, or nothing great that qualifies me this. Hey, let's talk about generosity. We're going to get the most generous guy up here to talk about it. I'm not it. And I want to say that I am not the most generous person I know. And when we've talked about these last few weeks, Adrian said, okay, I'm just going to have A. And we talked about generosity towards God. Okay, so G, towards, all right. God, G to G. Then last week we had generosity towards the kingdom of God, yeah? We had that, COG, which we put as the church, but he didn't want to use church because church is people. And so we talked about the building. We're happy with that? Yep, all right, good involvement from the front again. All right, Steve, you're going to have to a bit more louder. I couldn't hear that last one. All right, okay. And then today we actually want to have generosity towards people. All right, people. And when I think about generosity towards people, I'm going to use one of the most famous parables to talk about this because it's going to summarize the last few weeks. Now, I have also been shown a level of generosity that is, many of you know my story and know why we have 2 little boys. But to catch a few people up, my wife and I, we don't have kids the normal way. We go through the IVF thing, and we had a family there, not mentioning any names, that donated a level of help to us there, and that took a process, and then those things didn't work, and then we had a random phone call, it was, Wednesday night. And this phone call said, hey, I'm your doctor. And Jess said, hey, it's not a great day. We just got some bad news. Not really interested in what you're talking about. And she said, oh, that's too bad. I've just had someone call up. They're looking to get rid of some embryos and wondered if you're interested. Jess is sitting there, what do you mean? And she said, oh, look, I know that you've struggled for the last 8 years and the last 10 years you've spent tens and thousands of dollars and and you're probably not really interested in this. And Jess said, what are you talking about? And so anyway, connect the dots there. We take this phone call and this lady says, hey, why are you in the situation where you can't have kids? And so Jess says, oh, look, I've got this twin and I'm a twin and my twin's got this Down syndrome. And she said, oh, you're Robertsonian's translocation 23. Now, because you guys are like me and sit there and go, yeah, Robertsonian's translocation 23. What that means is that, and this is what the lady had told Jess. Jess says, no one knows what I have. This is like 1 in 10 million thing that only, anyway, don't worry about it. Ask me later. And she says, oh, you're Robertsonian's translocation 23. You are going to have these embryos and we're going to give them to you. And she said, oh, Jess is like, what do you mean? She said, don't worry about it. We're going to pay for everything and you don't have to do anything. And she said, on top of that, we'll make sure you get it all and you'll have these. I want to understand, and I want people to start to understand there. When I talk about this story, now we've got 2 lovely boys. Technically, they're my boys, but they're not really my DNA, but they're my boys. So, but that idea of, I'm not the most generous person, but I've received this generous gift. And I want you to understand, when we talk about generosity is not earned. It's not deserved. Because our idea of generosity is you do something nice to me and I'll do something nice for you, and we'll share that because we're generous to one another. Now I think, okay, I've gone on a spectrum there. Let's say that that's a good, but we can have better generosity. Is that all right? I think we can have a spectrum of good generosity, best generosity. And we want to be Christians because when Jesus talks about generosity and when he talks about love, he actually he takes what the law says, and we're going to get there in a second, and he expands it to become a lot more inclusive. And I've got a story there. We're going to shoot right there, and this is all going to make a little bit more sense. Jason, I'm going to need your help on this one. Okay, this is like the movie theater where we just kind of peel away and the things go really silently and they slide there. Okay, kids. It's one of my favorites.
The miracle of mercy. The Good Samaritan. This is Jesus.
Oh, sorry. There we go. That's the one. Okay, you want to read that one there?
On one occasion, an expert in the law stood up to test Jesus. Teacher, he asked, what must I do to inherit eternal life? What is written in the law, he replied. How do you read it? He answered, love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your strength and your mind, and love your neighbors as yourself. You have answered correctly, Jesus replied. Do this and you will live. But he wanted to justify himself. So he asked do this and you will live. But he wanted to justify himself. So he asked Jesus, and who is my neighbor? In reply, Jesus said, a man was going down from Jerusalem to Jericho when he fell into the hands of robbers. They stripped him of his clothes, beat him, and went away, leaving him half dead. A priest happened to be going down the same road, and when he saw the man, he passed by on the other side. So too, a Levite, when he came to the place and saw him, passed by on the other side. But a Samaritan, as he traveled, came where the man was and saw him. He took pity on him, and he went to him and bandaged his wound, pouring on oil and wine. Then he put the man on his own donkey, brought him to an inn, and took care of him. The next day he took out 2 silver coins and gave them to the innkeeper. Look after him, he said, and when I return, I will reimburse you for any extra expense you may have.
Beautiful. Nice work. Hold on, last 2.
Which of these 3 do you think was the neighbor to the man who fell into the hands of robbers? The expert replied, the one who had mercy on him. Jesus told him, go and do otherwise.
Go and do likewise. Thank you very much, April. I was going to look for my black texter. Okay, so we've got this story there. And we're supposed to be talking about generosity, and you'll pick up that I have said, to be a Christian, okay, we should be looking to, the guy says, all right, how do I get into heaven? How am I going to have eternal life? And it's really asking, he wants to justify his decision makings. He wants to justify his behaviors. So, and he turns around and Jesus says, what do you say they are? And he says, love. What does he say? Someone? Okay, love the Lord, your God. Okay, with your heart. Okay, nice big. I see. I actually had heart. Whoa, that's a terrible heart. Soul, with a bit of mind. That's a brain. And I need Caleb. This was where Caleb. Come over here, Caleb. Here we go. Draw an arm with strength. Just draw like muscles, kind of like Jono's arms, but bigger. That's all right. And then the second thing he says, what do we need to do? What's the next thing? Thank you. Okay. Need another colour, just because we can. Love your neighbour as your. Love neighbour as self. I know you can't see it back in there, but it's written there. Okay, that's a good arm. Well done. That's pretty good. Okay, and so we've got this idea of love and love, but I haven't mentioned the term generosity. Because what the word generosity is, love is actually the initiator. When we understand what love is, we understand that's initiating these thoughts. Generosity is the action. So when Jesus talks about love your neighbour and love God, he's actually saying get a heart. Develop a heart. Develop something within you. Drive it within you that leads to action. So I want to write that down. Love is the initiator. Initiator. Everything starts with love. If you don't love God, then you're not going to do anything for him. You can't be generous to someone that you don't love. You can't be generous with your time if you don't care about them. We can't be generous with your service if you don't care about it. And so love starts as the initiator, and what that leads to is action. Love is the initiator, generosity, it's actually a virtue, but anyway, is the action. Does that make sense so far? So when we are putting these things down, we sit there and go, okay, we're talking about generosity towards God. We're talking about generosity towards the kingdom of God. Then we're talking about generosity towards people. Oh, we actually have to develop a love towards people. And so God says, oh, look, this is how you develop a love towards people. You need to define them as, starts with N, E, I. Let's define neighbour. Is everyone happy with that so far? Or is Dave, you sitting there going, that's a bit of a leap there, Colin, we need to bring that right back there to any sort of heresy? It's important to check, and I want to be called out if that's inappropriate. Because our idea of neighbour in today's society actually is bound to a geographical location. If it's not a proximity thing, it's actually connected to the idea that we like them. And so when we measure ourselves on this scale of good to best in our generosity scale, I most of the time sit there and go, I'm pretty good. I'm really generous. Oh, that was even beyond it. I'm pretty generous. Because the way I treat the people in my proximity, pretty good. The way that I treat the people at work, pretty nice. The way I treat people in society, generally pretty good. But Jesus actually, what I want to front run this idea is when he uses neighbour, it's not a definition thing here. He's about to front run and he's about to challenge the idea of what neighbour is because he associates a different meaning to it. And I want you to go to verse 37, whoever's got a Bible from Luke 10, and we're going to read and challenge an idea of what, you want to jump up here and read it? I'm going to get the next person there we've got a couple of other ideas over there. Verse 37, Luke chapter 10, verse 37. Here we go.
Just
verse 37.
The man replied, "The one who showed him mercy." Then Jesus said, "Yes, now go and do the same."
Neighbour equals. Read it again.
The man replied, "The one who showed him mercy." Then Jesus said, "Yes, now go and do the same."
Read it again.
The man replied, "The one who showed him mercy." Then Jesus said, "Yes, now go and do the same."
No, it's all right. Our natural definition is correct. God's definition and a biblical understanding of neighbour challenges the idea of proximity, kids, and it moves the idea of now you are in control of who your neighbour is. It is not based on proximity. Jesus says it is now up to you to find the person that you are going to show mercy to. I didn't realise that I had a neighbour in the island of, I can't even remember that, but it's over in Indonesia. And it's one of my compassion childs. She's my neighbour. That might be a really basic idea and about me, but the reason she is my neighbour is because I showed her mercy. And I gave, and she didn't earn it, and she didn't deserve it, but because I was able to, I chose to show her mercy. When we understand the biblical application of neighbour is no longer about proximity, it now makes me feel less Christian. And I'm uncomfortable with that. And I'm not coming from a position of strength. Because I have not been a neighbour. Let's break that down that idea just for a second. If we look at that idea, who was the neighbour in the story? Let's start with the robbers. Why weren't the robbers the neighbour? All right, I've got Nate over there, Kieran over there, I've got April over there. Who else do I got? Okay, I wanted you, Do you remember, what did the robbers do there? Okay, so all the neighbours out there, should we go beat them up? Wrong answer, Heath. Out you go. This is a church that we want strong people. So our neighbours, we don't beat them up. So what else did the robbers do? They stripped them of their clothes. Do not go strip people of their clothes. That is inappropriate. They are not the neighbour in this story. Now the thing there that I want to pick up on, I've got a little spot over here, and I know this is an absolute dog's breakfast, but you're going to get some ideas, is what did the Levite and the priest do? I'm pretty sure they were called Adrian and Ron if it's in the ESV version. That's inappropriate. That's why I can't come here next week. Okay, so we've got the Levite and the priest. What do they do? Beautiful, I love that. You are top of the class there, April. Gold star. Roz, I thought you would challenge the top of the star. Okay, maybe not. So they ignored them and they crossed to the other side. So interesting that what did they do first though? They looked and they saw and then they chose to ignore. Let me tell you about most of the needs that I see. I look, I see, I ignore. Because I don't treat them as a neighbour. I tell a funny, not a funny story, I tell a story. I was at Woolworths a few weeks ago and the kids might remember this. And there's a guy over I'm doing the fresh food, the fresh vegetables and there's aisles, right? Vegetables, fruit. Oh, there's a guy over there having an asthma attack. I'm like, oh no, he's got his puffer. He's all right. He's sweet. Okay. Vegetables, because it goes back to potatoes for some reason. He's sitting there at the cake section. I'm like, I better do the vegetables again. Keep an eye on this bloke. And I'm over there, and so I go down to the nut section. We're in Unidare, Woolworths. He probably figured that out. And he's over there still in the cake section. I'm like, I have looked and I have seen. Still ignoring. For what it's worth, the third time I finally get to the back of the meat section. Flippin', he's still trying to die out there. I run over there. Mate, what's going on? I can see that you're having a bad day. Now, I ignored this 3 times. And my eyes, although I saw it, I hadn't perceived. One of the things that Helen talked about is eyes to see. And one of the things that I want to get to the idea of is when we start to understand what neighbour means, we actually pray for eyes to see. Because I believe if we're going to be generous people, we're actually going to be, this is going to sound fun, if we're actually going to do Christianity, we're actually going to have eyes to see because there's need everywhere. And so third time lucky, thank you God, I'm flipping slow. Mate, I can see that you're in a bad way. To tell me about it, what's going on, how can I help? This guy Luke, he's 60 odd, he's got emphysema, he's been a smoker his whole life. He says, I just want to get round Woolworths. I just need to get these couple of items and then I'll be out of here. What items do you need to get? Okay, so I kind of finished on a thing. I'd give myself a D+. Okay, so what do you get in the report card? Like satisfactory, unsatisfactory, still developing? Still developing? Still developing. Okay, I've got to still developing. I think that's fair. We are disciples of Christ. We are apprentices of Jesus. I'm not sitting there in a position of judgment. I'm in a position of a trainee going, I want to become more like Jesus. I want eyes to see. I want to be generous with my life. I want to be the guy that when he, a generous man, when we talk about the idea of generosity, he refreshes others. He who's generous with others will he himself be refreshed. So I want to understand that there is a connection with the way that I spend my life and share my life. But so much more than that, I want eyes to see and actually do something about it. So we defined the neighbour. We got to the idea of the 3 robbers. They were not neighbours. Then we got to the idea of the Levite and the priest. Okay, they looked, they saw, they ignored, they weren't the neighbours. Then we get to the Samaritan. Now, I don't want to go down the weeds of that idea of the Samaritans being you could have made it a Roman or something like that, that they were hated. But what were the actions, kids, that made this person a neighbour? What were some of the actions? What were some of the things that he did, Bella? What were some of the things that the Samaritan did to the person that was broken? A couple of ideas. Yep. Wine and olive oil, so there's an element of healing. Good. What else? Wine. Anyone else? Yell it out. Oh, hospital, motel. I was going to put hospital, but hostel. Hostel. That's a combination. Hostel, paid for. Clothes. Thank you. I'm just using whiteboard because it's there. He advocated for him. Okay. Paid for expenses, beautiful, I like that. Paid for his expenses, thanks Nate. Advocate. Oh man, it's like chicken scratch down there. Gave him a lift, gave him a ride. Beautiful ride. So we get the idea that a Samaritan, this particular person, he's had eyes to see. Did he have eyes to see? Do you have eyes to see? We've got eyes to see. Then what has he used? He's used his resource. What did he use as resource? He's used his donkey. It's called a Corolla. Used his $1 bucks, bluey bucks, money. Used his time and oh jeepers, what is that? Convenience. Ants. Oh, good luck trying to take a photo of that one. What does it say? That's the Greek version and the Hebraic. I was actually looking up at what neighbour is in the Levitical law. There's two types of neighbour that's used, and the Levitical law actually does kind of 1724. It does actually mean associated person. But Jesus, like I said before, pushes against that associated person, that community person, and he puts it in the. He now puts whoever you want to be a neighbour is now on you, because you showed justice. And when we say neighbour, when we say, did I show mercy? I'm thinking about people in my life who don't deserve it. They don't have to deserve it. It doesn't have to be equal. They're going to be my neighbour. They didn't earn it. They didn't do me a favour. They're going to be my neighbour. I'm thinking about guys at work. When we are generous with our lives, we actually start to bring a whole lot of neighbours into us, towards us, because we control our behaviours, our generosity. It's not about proximity anymore, is it? I love it. What was that? Verse 37. The expert in the law, which of these do you think was a neighbour to the man? The man who fell into the hands of the robbers, the one who had mercy on him, the one who showed mercy, the one who showed mercy, the one who showed mercy, the one who had mercy. If you've got mercy on someone, you are now being a neighbour to that person. All right, where did that one leave? Okay, so I've got that one there. I don't even know how to make sense of that. We've got to wrap that one all there. Okay, 11:03, good. Is that all right so far? Yeah. Okay, how are you doing up the back there? I was sitting there, I've got everyone over there. How you doing, Ruby? We're all right? Love is the initiator. Oh, I wanted to prove this. I need another reader. Who can be a reader? Nate, come be a reader. I'm so glad that I put these ones up there. We've done that one. Oh, we haven't done those three. Okay, quickly, I need Kim. Can you do this one, James? Kathy, can you do Romans 12, 1 and 2? And you're going to do Luke 6. Okay, here we go. Luke 6. Luke 6. Luke 6 verses 32 to 36. Oh, yeah, well, let's go up here. No, let's do what I said. Okay. Luke 32, 36. Okay, go.
If you love those who love you, what credit is that to you? Even sinners love those who love them. And if you do good to those who are good to you, and if you lend to those from whom you expect repayment, what credit is that to you? Even sinners lend to sinners, expecting to be repaid in full. But love your enemies, do good to them, and lend to them without expecting to get anything back. Then your reward will be great, and you will be sons of the Most High, because He is kind to the ungrateful and wicked. Be merciful, just as your Father is merciful.
Beautiful. Thank you. Our biblical understanding needs to be greater than our natural understanding. What Nate has just read out is if you lend to other people that are going to give back to you, what credit is that to you? That sounded very judgy from the front, so I should probably give myself an uppercut. And I need to understand that same thing. If I want to align myself with a God idea, a biblical understanding, a narrative in which God says, you know what, there is a greater generosity for you to give, Cole, then I need to be able to give freely. I need to be able to give open-handedly. I need to be able to give without expecting something in return. Because generosity is not earned. Generosity is not deserved. Generosity is a gift that we give as Christians, understanding that God is going to work through that. Next one. Kimmy, you jumping up? Are you sharing that one? Beautiful. Thank you. You coming up? Yeah. No. All right.
You see the person that is considered righteous by what they do and do not by faith alone. In the same way was not even Rahab the prostitute considered righteous for what she did when she gave lodging to the spies and sent them off in a different direction. As the body without the spirit is dead, so faith without deeds is dead.
There we go. Beautiful. Faith without deeds is dead. And where were these two words there? Chicken scratch down here. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. That can be our religion. But we've got to marry it up with love thy neighbour as yourself. Because our idea of your faith means nothing without actions associated. Our faith, it lacks intensity, it lacks integrity. I was looking for another I word because 3 I's are important. But we get the idea that if it lacks any depth to it, then all it is, Paul says, is a sounding gong. You know, there's no love associated with it. There's no action associated with it. We got that one there. Thanks, Kim. Got that one there. Got that one there. And Romans 12, 1 and 2. Kathy, beautiful. You going to stay there?
A living sacrifice. I appeal to you, therefore, brothers, by the mercies of God, to present your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and acceptable to God, which is your spiritual worship. Do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewal of your mind, that by testing you may discern what is the will of God, what is good and acceptable and perfect.
Thank you, Kathy. I want to break that one just quickly there, break that down. So when we talk about, therefore I urge you, brothers and sisters, in view of God's mercy. What was God's mercy? That he sent his son. Did we earn that? We got that mercy word again. Did we deserve that? We didn't deserve it. We didn't earn it. In view of God's mercy, to offer our bodies as living sacrifices. Is this easy? This is not easy. And as a Christian, as someone who loves God and is trying to walk in that apprenticeship and walk in that traineeship, I struggle with this because it's challenging my mentality that has been practiced. And so I've got a lot of bad habits because I thought that my neighbours were the people I liked. I thought my neighbours were the people that I associated with on a daily basis. But when God talks about neighbours, he says, Cole, it's not about those people who are just in proximity to you. Those are important too, 100%. But who doesn't deserve it? Who can't earn it? Who can you be generous to? Who can you be generous to with your time? Who can you be generous to with your words? Who can you be generous to with your finance? And so we get this idea that we become a living sacrifice, and there's a level of difficulty associated with it, because it then goes to say, do not conform to the pattern of this world. And I know what the pattern of this world says is look after yourselves. Look after number one. Look after your families, and those things are important things, but we've got to hold it in tension with what the Bible says. Are we going to be obedient to what God has called you to do as a Christian, as a child of God, to advocate and to love the people around you, to treat them as neighbours, not just as enemies? Because it then goes on, only moments later, verse 7, love is sincere, hate what is evil, cling to what is good, be devoted to one another in brotherly love, honour one another above yourselves. Honour one another above yourselves. Never be lacking in zeal, but keep your spiritual fervour serving the Lord. Be joyful in hope, patient in affliction, faithful in prayer. Share with God's people who are in need. Practice hospitality. Bless those who persecute you. Bless and do not curse. Rejoice with those who rejoice, mourn with those who mourn. Live in harmony with one another. Do not be proud, but be willing. This is a big one for me. Not that it's about me. Do not be proud, but be willing to associate with people of low position. Do not be conceited. I don't want my pride to get in the way of my neighbours anymore, because I haven't treated them as people. And so I want to leave that one there, and that idea that when we do look through a lens, a biblical lens, I want you to test and challenge me on that, or challenge yourself on that, wrestle with those ideas. Because if we're going to live a generous life and to top and tail this particular message, I understand that a lot of people, and we feel the cost of living bearing down on us. And it would be rude of me to ignore that. And it would be rude of a church to ignore that. And to then say, just give anyway. Generosity is not an amount. It starts with love. Love is a spirit. And I don't want that to be taken manipulatively, because generosity is not just money, it's time, it's effort, it's energy, it's words. If I go back to those ideas of the Samaritan down here, I found it. He gave resource, his donkey, he allowed people to travel. So this is for your Monday. What are we going to do with this on Monday? What are we going to do with this tomorrow? No point preaching if it's not applicable to your Monday, right? This week, we've defined our neighbours. They might be known, they might be unknown. You've then looked at your own self and said, actually, I'm short on cash, but I'm rich on time. I'm short on cash and time, but I've got some travel involved here where I can do a phone call and I can definitely lift up someone with my words. I'm traveling in a certain direction and I can put them on my donkey, I can put them in my Corolla, I can help them move. If this is not, we've got to start to be applicable and find ways to be generous with our lives. Let me pray.